Yep. All right, let's call her to order. 6:31. Bergstrom?
Yes.
Merritt? Yes. Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Van Sickle. All right. Anybody want to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Bergstrom?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
I don't know who Thomas is. Merritt? Yeah. Okay, first up, facility assessment report.
Yeah, so in the fall, I came to you guys and said that we're working on a really strategic plan and creating a plan so that we can work that plan moving forward. And part of that is that I think when you look, I use the analogy of the car, and you look at the outside of the car and there's really no blemishes, everything looks really nice, but I wanted to get an analysis underneath the hood of the car so that we're well prepared when we're looking at our facilities overall. So we partnered with ISG. ISG is an architect company in the Midwest, and they have a lot of different areas. One of their categories is education. So they actually, over the last 4 or 5 months, been working with us in partnership with Billy Olson as well as myself, and have brought a lot of experts up here to really just give an overall analysis. And they are going to take about 5 months of information and share it with you guys tonight on kind of our current condition for Ogden Community Schools. So I have Kevin and Thad with ISG here.
Thanks for having us. And the part that Joshua left out is we're going to try and boil it down to 30 minutes. So the clock is ticking quickly. So I'll kind of start off, like Joshua said, we do a lot of these planning studies throughout the Midwest. What we're going to go through is we're going to do facility assessment. So that's going to talk about the actual infrastructure of our buildings. I'm going to talk about educational adequacy. So we did a staff survey as well of what are the challenges, what's working well in the buildings from a staff perspective. And then we also looked at the capacity as far as enrollment and what enrollment can our facility support. Like I said, or like I briefly said, we've done a kind of a wide variety of these studies throughout the state and really throughout the Midwest. So each one is a little unique as far as what the challenges are there. Some have steady enrollment, some have declining, some have growth. So each one is a little different that we're looking at. So Thad, I'll let you talk about the facility assessment component.
Good. So like Kevin said, I was here to look at the existing conditions of the 2 buildings in the district. I get the pleasure of boarding cats around, so architects and engineers, so sometimes they don't jive up too well, so I get to make sure that they all play nice on site and during this whole planning process. So we kind of broke down our facility assessment into these different categories. So we had good, fair, and poor conditions, and then we also assign it a priority, so a number rating 1 through 3. So that priority 1 we see as an immediate need, so it should be done in the next couple of years. Priority 2 is an emerging need, so that 3 to 6 years, and then priority 3 is a future need, so planning out that 7 to 10 years. That's typically what we have to look out for these facility assessments, that 10-year. Big shocker is the overall efficiencies of what we saw district-wide. This is kind of broken down by the middle school here and the elementary school. And then we roll up the first year the dollar amounts, how it's broken down. So about 10.5 million here at the school, just under 5 million at the elementary school, and about 340,000 at that varsity wrestling room.
And really, when you look at that, the square footage of this building, that's saying the middle of high school, compared to the elementary. That really doesn't surprise us. Very in line as far as ongoing maintenance based on the ages of some of the spaces of the building.
And then this is looking out that 10-year mark too. So this graph is just showing those same costs, but broken out by those priorities for each of those buildings.
And I think the big thing that you would see here is compare the elementary and the middle school. Elementary, the biggest bar is kind of the middle, like emerging priority compared to the high school. The biggest difference that we'll kind of talk through, what are some of the differences, that higher priority is a lot of your critical things. Maybe it's older HVAC or older sections of roofs, things like that that are more like essential type things to have good learning environments. So, like I said, we'll talk about this a little bit more, but we did a staff survey as well of how well do the different types of spaces work. We let them rank items, but they also give us comments on here's why this is a challenge, right? And we learned just as much from the comments as well and getting the feedback. But between the two facilities, we had 77 responses, so really good response and great feedback that was really helpful to understand some of the challenges.
So we kind of jumped right into it at the elementary school, and Pete, you mentioned you got to thumb through this during the facility committee. So this is the raw data that came out of the facility study or the site visit. And the district had this for a couple months, going through it line item by line item. There's about 400 line items here of things we looked at. So we brought a civil engineer, a mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, and then some folks in our technology also joined us on the site visit. And we always start from the outside of the building and we look in. So these are just some high level items that we pulled out of this mountain of raw data. So we're not thumbing through a spreadsheet here at the board meeting. So over at the elementary school, we looked at the site and the grounds and just picked up on some of the sidewalk or the pedestrian routes are in need of some replacement. That's just due to where we live in the upper Midwest. You have that freeze-thaw cycle, and you're going to have heaving and settling, so it's kind of an ongoing thing. Overall, the parking spaces work well at the elementary. This building's a little bit different story. We'll jump into that here during this presentation. The exterior of the elementary, where you got to see that large dollar amount, a lot of that comes from roofing. So you've got the original footprint, which is the barrel roof gym. That's the original portion of the building, and then you've got the addition. That's everything else. A lot of that roofing was all done during that addition when that was built. So you see that it's between 20 and 25 years old, nearing the end of its life. So it's a rubber ballasted roof. It's got rocks that hold it down. So average 20 to 25 years of life you see out of that type of roofing system.
And you might get a little bit more, but that's typically when the warranty on those roofs starts to come up as around the 20 to 25 years, somewhere like that. So.
Yep. Also saw some evidence of some window caulking, sealants failure around. You got the lower picture there is somebody's shoved a rag there just to stop some of the water. And then otherwise, just real easy door maintenance. You know, some of that's a self-facing wall there. So a lot of faded paints and things like that. So a lot of that's there. So overall, the elementary outside building is performing well. It's that roofing, a large portion of that building. The same vintage of roof.
Kevin and that, if I'm going to interject here, one of the things that the board has done really well is you guys have created a roof schedule, and we have really analyzed and said we need to make sure that we're staying on top of our roofs. A big portion of the elementary is slated to get this summer because we realize that it is old, it's lost its shelf life. So just to know that our plan, your guys' planning and preparation over the last several years has gotten us to a position that we're able to use some dollars this year to tackle a critical project.
Yep, and Billy had mentioned that too. And he had done one small section to the north of the gym recently, I think last year.
Interior, inside of the building, again, really updating. There's some minor examples of, we've got some repairs and just ongoing things to do to maintain the building well. That lower level space, I think, big picture, what do we want to do with that space? Is it going to be storage? What does it want to be? But overall, interiors wise, it's in pretty decent shape.
Moving into the mechanical plumbing and we saw a lot of the same thing kind of as the roofing. Some of that mechanical equipment has got a shelf life. Well, it all has a shelf life, and we're nearing the end of that life for the cooling towers, the heat pumps, the ventilation systems. Some of the pumps you can see have been replaced there on the chilled water side, but a lot of that HVAC system has that 20 to 30-year lifespan, and we're getting into that window of time now. We looked at the electrical and technology as well. So when that addition was done, that was just prior to LED time frame before it was really widespread. So we saw a lot of that building still has the fluorescence that you have in this one here. LED lighting is kind of the way to go. Now in the education world, you have a lot more control with the lighting, to dim it, color changing, just control it a lot better, and it's a lot more conducive to learning. Look at the emergency generator. Billy told us that it's now offline, so that building has no backup power, which is not required, but we're just noting that that existing generator is not hooked up at this time. And then just some opportunities to update some of the antiquated system.
So that's something that so I think as we do those types of projects, that's the type of door hardware that we would replace them out for. I'm going to just go through some of them. Some comments about class sizes, as the classroom sizes were too small based on number of students. We'll look at that a little bit later on. We've got some information. More room for growing class sizes. Comfort, temperature control in the gym and classrooms. So again, kind of what Dad talked about. Flexibility of spaces for group work, group learning, things like that. Kitchen equipment and dishwashing capacity. So those are good comments of if it gets tight there as far as just being able to return between lunch periods, the switch. More nurse and office space to go through a few of them. Parking capacity is a challenge, but again, it's a tight site there for sure. And then this is always some great ones to think about in the future. Supervision for recess, and then lighting and camera coverage kind of outside the building. So when we think about that on the outside of the building.
Another interjection here real quick. The one thing I want to note is that when we got the Homeland Security grant, some of the 150,000 that we got, we are addressing some of those issues such as camera coverage. So I appreciate the fact that the things that you guys are identifying as needs, we already are starting to address some of those things with our safety improvements.
Any questions on the elementary school so far? Okay.
Again, I feel like I should start this out. You guys have done a lot of great investments. We're great at going through and nitpicking every single thing in your district of because that's our job to put together the long range plan. But again, we also recognize the things that aren't on here are the things that you guys have taken care of. So we acknowledge that. That's not what we're spending our 30 minutes on today.
So kind of the same process here at this school as the elementary. We looked at the parking lots. More to come on that. We've got a whole couple different slides on that to show you guys. Just looking at some of the existing conditions, the condition of some of them are in pretty rough shape as far as cracking and all that good stuff. So sidewalks is kind of the same thing here. It's a constant battle with the elements as far as heaving and settling. We're always going to be maintaining those. Traffic flow, we've got some, and then some accessibility issues that go along with some of that settling and heaving, because certain sidewalk panels are meeting slope requirements and things like that. So, exterior of the building, roofing, we've got a lot more roofing sections, just a lot more square footage in this building. We've seen the investments done for the roofing here. A lot of them have been updated in the last 10 years. There's 2 more sections in this building. I believe it's over the original gym and kind of that front athletics portion is a small section that is still original, not original, but installed in 99. So you're kind of in that that sweet spot of when we should be thinking about replacing those. Going around the exterior, the doors and the door hardware still have some original kind of on this portion of the 1969 building. Others have been updated with the athletic entrance and the new addition. And then the windows to the second story addition are, Billy said, giving them some problems. They're hard to operate, can't get parts for them anymore. So I think we did see some of this. So that's just the original inside.
Yeah, so inside the building, and again, we could put 100 pictures in here. I would say the biggest thing is the interior conditions as far as floors, walls, doors, ceilings. Kind of follows each vintage of the building. So you see, we've got some locker rooms and such that haven't been updated yet. Some other spaces that really just haven't been updated, refreshed. I would say, especially in this 1969, the high school portion, that whole area. Some of the locker rooms, like we talked about, haven't been done yet. And then there's some accessibility things like we've got some doors. Here's an example of a locker room where there's not the proper side clearance for like an accessible approach if I'm in a wheelchair. Some things like that. Accessible locker rooms or restrooms as far as the proper stall sizes, things like that for accessibility. And then really ceilings, flooring as well in those spaces, and casework as far as replacement of some of that original casework.
And then just going into the mechanical stuff, so you can kind of notice if you go through the school, their different spaces have different temperatures, right? And that's kind of the same thing. You got different systems going on. Maybe this unit controls just one or two rooms, and this one just controls one down the hallway. So you've got all these different kind of systems, fan coil units, unit ventilators. So when we design new buildings, we're condensing that into one or two units that serve multiple areas, a little more efficient, a little less of the maintenance. We have 15 different pieces of equipment, we'll consolidate that down into a few. So just some opportunities to upgrade some of that HVAC. And that's basically in this portion of the 1969 wing and moving over to the, so you see it through CTE area, so that original equipment is still hanging in the ceiling, and then some unit vents in the two-story addition too. That picture down at the bottom on the far left is the controls. So you've got kind of a mix smash of controls that are controlling the HVAC. The newer vintage is an electronic control. The older version is a pneumatic. And that just simply tells valves to open, dampers to open based on occupancy. So pneumatic is a pretty old way of doing it. And then the electric and technology, some of that old power distribution is still in use. So switch gear, switch panel, branch panels are still from 1969. It's just like everything, we have a shelf life on this equipment, and that's about 30 to 40 years. So we're a little past that with some of this equipment, but still is in operable order. It's still being used. Met with the technology person. We walked around with our guy and just identified upgrading some of the audio-visual classrooms, and then just upgrading some of the internet backbone stuff.
And then again, specific to the middle school, we have the educational adequacy assessment, 39 responses between the middle school and high school. Middle school in general, overall, very good condition, not surprising because it's in very good shape. We learned a couple things. The thing I point out is locker space. So there's just some things that were a little tight on there that we want to be thoughtful of. Can we accommodate that, or where do we need to look at something there? But really, big picture, we've got some bigger class sizes there. But again, we'll look at that later if those rooms are actually designed for a little bit larger class sizes based on the square footage. Overall, though, again, temperature fluctuations. Some of those things, though, are just operating things as we learn to adjust the building, and maybe also address some of the older areas as well. And then high school, again, a little bit more items here. We talked about in the classroom spaces, need for more natural lighting and lighting updates, furniture updates, and the flexibility of the spaces, and also space for growth. The lack of office space and just confidential meeting space, so maybe small group learning spaces, things like that, spread throughout the academic wing. And a lot of what you have in the middle school wing, some of those things are missing in the high school area. Support spaces, so restrooms, as far as updating those, library space, so again, a chance to update and really the space as well. That we talked about a little bit, the areas of the 2008 locker room remodel and also use the shower area. So those some of those areas were updated yet. And then like we talked about the lack of second floor breakout learning spaces for flexibility. And the last one was for limited tech space. We kind of looked at some thoughts on how that's used. So that was some feedback for that in the survey. And then just based on the high school, the temperature fluctuations, so that aligns with what I talked about, the HVAC needs, and then traffic flow, parking capacity, no surprises there as well. So, we'll, like I said, we'll talk about them more in just a bit. Any questions with that? That's that information. Again, like we said, we're trying to boil a lot of information down. So the other thing that we did, and Ted, you can jump to the next slide, is we think about capacity of your buildings. That's something when we talk to Joshua and Billy, we just want to understand what can we reasonably support as like a maximum capacity in our buildings. So we look at elementary, middle school, high school a little bit differently. For this, what we call a utilization rate, what that's saying is that our staff is going to have our classroom teacher is going to have a break throughout the day at some point. So it's not realistic to say those spaces are going to be occupied 100% of the time. So elementaries typically we're going to use for this study 90% utilization, middle school 80%, high school 75%. All that means is this is for every classroom space that we have, we're going to say that's going to be occupied 75 to 90% of the time. With that, you can jump to the next one. Actually, jump to the next one as well. So what does it boil down to? We'll do the elementary first. So our current enrollment, right around 305 students in the elementary building. Capacity, and that number wiggles a little bit throughout the year. Capacity, so we take the number of classrooms times an average number of students per classroom. So 22 students is what we use for the study. That may be on the high end for kindergarten and maybe on the low end for fifth grade. So it's a good average number. That would say 100% capacity is 374. At 90%, that would say ideally we're more at like 336 if our enrollment at 305. It's like there's a little bit of room there, but it's probably feeling pretty tight in those spaces. Middle school, this is a separate spreadsheet that we had and went through with Joshua. The reason it's separate is the same exact process, except some of these spaces the same team between all that. Functional capacity 173. But again, that one, we do plan for around maybe 25 students per classroom in those spaces at the middle and high school level. High school enrollment around 250 and functional capacity around 434 students. So just a couple of quick disclaimers. Elementary, we exclude gymnasiums, music, and art because, again, we're not going to have those spaces occupied throughout the day. They're going to be just pulled out for specials. And then pre-K rooms, the capacity and those students are excluded from this study in these numbers. That is going to jump to the next one. The other thing that we put together, and this is more so just for thoughtfulness going forward, recommended square footages per student. The big takeaway here is our elementary grades. We just put recommended room square footage per student. Elementary is around 770 square feet for those rooms. The thing about our middle school, 922 square feet in those classrooms. So that's really helping support maybe a class size of 25, things like that. So that if you jump to the next one. The high school, when we think about this 1969 edition or area, the challenge here, if we just compare that to the middle school, here in the high school, around 724 square feet in those rooms. So when we think about the future, when the district addresses that area, I would just say we want to be thoughtful about, are we fine? Can these spaces serve us well, the size that they are? Or do we need to kind of reconfigure that space to get a little bit larger rooms to really accommodate, what are we comfortable with as a district? Is it 25? Is it 28 students at the high school level? And then work backwards from there. Parking, everyone's favorite subject, what everyone's been waiting for. So we have approximately 250 stalls at the middle and high school. That doesn't include like anything as far as gravel. This is just what's striped. We broke down, like, there is no perfect recommendation. The city, most cities and municipalities, if you follow their guidelines, you'd be underparked as far as what you would actually do. So what we do is we break it down to daytime and then evening, like events. Daytime wise, you got about 55 staff here, about 130 student drivers, okay? So that would say 250 between staff and students. We're probably okay. We add a few for parents, visitors, things like that, but there's not going to be a lot of extra stalls. The issue that we run into is evening parking in events. So here, our auditorium has around 300 seat capacity. Between the two gyms, so gym A, that'd be the older one, 700 seats, and the newer one, 1,000 seats. So you take that, then I can jump to the next one. And if you just add in anything outdoors, you've got a lot going on, right? The other thing to think about is that 250 stalls recognize that, the front of our building here, you almost have to exclude a lot of this for anything indoor. So really we're relying on everything up here, around 175 stalls, the front of the building to serve any indoor activities. For outdoor activities, it's a lot the same and maybe a little bit back here as well. So what does that all mean? I think this is Kevin's opinion here. I think this size parking lot needs to be replicated somewhere over on the eastern side of the site, because that will help with the athletics and everything else that's going on. So, that could be broken up. Maybe it's something here. If we do something elsewhere for athletics down the road, but big picture, I think that 135 stalls, we could use something like that for the activities piece. And this is just an example. This is this is a K through 12 school. So one building, around its current enrollment is around 900 students. And I just think it's a good example. Their elementary wing is here. They had 120 stalls here. Middle and high school is here with those gyms, performing arts, everything right in the middle. 109 stalls here. So you compare that to what you guys have. And then their instance, their bus and some staff parking was in the back of the building. So I think it's something to consider as far as our capacity. Questions? It's a lot of information very quickly. But I would say we'll obviously share this with Joshua, continue to discuss and digest, and send Joshua questions as you think about and sleep on it. But that if you jump to the next one, a few things that we learned through this, that original high school, I think really think about what does that significant investment look like. Not only just investing in HVAC and finish updates, but are these room sizes and such going to serve us well? Is this what we need? Consider expanding our middle school and high school tech ed programming. I think there's a great opportunity to kind of consolidate some of those things together. We've got a fax lab in one space, business lab in another, and ag in another area. So there's something that we could do better holistically But especially we try to do where you've got like a middle of high school together. Address the parking, we talked about that a little bit. Let's continue to think about what is future growth in the community. I think continue dialogue with the community, like what's happening for growth, future developments, and thinking about what's happening for class sizes is important. And then just keep investing in that capital maintenance of the elementary school. Any questions?
Example is that I was hoping to do some common space improvements over the summer with some LED lighting, some drop ceiling. And by doing this analysis, we found out that some of the HVAC, electrical, what have you, needs to be repaired. So if we would have allocated dollars in improving those, we would have ultimately tore it down in a year or two whenever we address that HVAC. So I think this gives us an opportunity to say what is working, what isn't working, and then let's prioritize that work so we're being intentional with our dollars and not wasting them in the future.
Other questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you guys, I
All right,
appreciate it.
thanks, guys.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, we are skipping principal reports tonight. We've
Yep.
got one in DC and one running a concert, so on to consent agenda. Does anybody have anything on that?
Move to approve? Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt. Yep. All right, action items, FCCLA travel request. You guys ready? You wanna tell them what you're asking for?
Okay, so all three of us have Miranda has qualified for nationals with a project in a food innovation star event, and Jane and I are both got elected on state executive council for CCLA this term, and we have been like offered the opportunity to go to nationals in Seattle, Washington this summer, and we'll represent SCCLA and Ogden while we're there in Iowa. I'm confused, so. With that event that I was here earlier about, with yoga bites, I won. I almost had a perfect record. I got first, so I was given the opportunity to go to nationals. I'm really excited.
So our trip will be, we would fly out the 29th of June and then return sometime on July 4th. For money, as far as trying to fundraise and all that, the Ogden Alumni Association graciously donated $1,000 to cover our registration. That was up from last year. I did not put in again for this year, just didn't feel right to double dip, but that was what was left over from last year, so our registration has been covered. And then for that left us at hotel was $2,500, and then depending on what I can get for airport, that was another $2,500. I think we're looking about. I'm sorry, airfare is another $1,300, so we're looking about $2,500 a race. Our ideas that are kind of coming to mind. We've been working concession stands where we can. We still got chocolate bars to sell. The shoe drive, they're planning to be picking those up on Wednesday, so we'll have that coming in. We just worked a John Deere event, so that's some money coming in. And then someone brought to mind CY garage sales, that we could set up a couple tables in the student parking lot. That someone did that in the past years and brought in some money, whether it was maybe selling baked goods or whatever students have an offer to sell. Other ideas, Miranda had a graduation shirt for the elementaries where they like write their name or whatever, and you sell it to the parents and for their graduating year. Is that
Or
right?
graduating class, so it'd be like a customized shirt for their graduating class, and they'll have all of their classmates' names and their like actual signatures on the back to make it like more personal and stuff. So I think we're gonna do that to those maybe and stuff.
And then we have some sponsor letters for the officers, and then a different one for competition events. That I thought about going around and using to businesses to get sponsorship, and we'll have a national shirt that we're gonna design and make, and then they'll kind of buy their spot on the shirt somewhere, however big. With the STEM grant that the business CTE department and everything got here not too long ago, I do have a printer that we can make our own shirts. We don't have to outsource it. And that is one of my future goals to like kind of do apparel and that kind of stuff. Or whatever, but that's a whole story. But we would make our own shirts, so that's it in a nutshell. I will say we'll get there because in October they have to go to Anaheim, so we'll be asking for that approval next school year. But right now we're just asking if we can go to Seattle and represent Ogden for first time ever, I think.
Cool.
Anybody have questions?
That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, well,
I'll make a motion to approve the state travel.
second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Barrett.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congrats.
Have fun.
Thanks.
Thank you.
I just want to recognize it's a first year program, and we have two girls that are representing us at the state level on the board, and one that is competing at a national level. So kudos to the girls, but also kudos to Miss Levicki for all that she's doing for our students as well.
All right, on to the budget amendment hearing. Sorry. I was gonna upload this. I can. So a hearing is required on the amendment of the 23-24 certified budget. Notice that the proposed amendment has been published. As required, there will be no increase in taxes to be paid in the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2024. The public hearing on the amendment of current budget for fiscal year 2023-24 is now open. Anybody has any questions? I will now close the public hearing, and we will just entertain a motion to approve the amendment of current budget for this fiscal year.
Second.
Bergstrom?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
And report on April 3rd. Let's see, the public hearing on the certified budget for fiscal year 24-25 is now open. Okay, I will now close the public hearing and entertain a motion to approve the 24-25 certified budget, setting the property tax rate at $13.55.
So moved.
Second.
Bergstrom?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Barrett? Yes. Public hearing is also required to adopt the school calendar. The public hearing on the 2024-25 school calendar is now open. Anybody? Okay, I will now close the public hearing and entertain a motion to approve the 24-25 school calendar.
So moved.
Second.
Bergstrom?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Thompson?
Yes.
Barrett? Yes. Okay, let's move on to contracts and letters of assignment. Anybody have anything like that? Any questions, concerns, anything?
Happy to see the nice races before we can. So I will make the motion to approve the 24-25 contracts and letters of assignment.
Great, thank you.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. All right, on to transportation pay rates, which are going up just a tad. Anybody have anything about that? Okay, if not,
So moved.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
yes. Okay, on to teacher early signing bonus. It looks like we're not quite as robust as last year. We just can't quite pull that off for this time around, but we would like to incentivize to go and get contracts. Does anybody have a question?
I'll make the motion.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. Okay. So now on to Mr. Hires contract, which we actually will need to go to a quick executive session if I went,
Negotiations.
or just to negotiate really quickly, which I think we'll do that in your office, if that is okay. So the board will just step away just briefly to,
Be right back.
yeah, to tie together his contract, and then we'll continue after that.
Do you need to read it?
I'll make the motion that we raise Mr. Hires' salary slightly to a total of $149,500.
You're one of the 3-year contract.
Yes. I'll second that. Yes.
No day makeups.
Absolutely.
You want to explain this?
Yeah, I'd be glad to real quick. I have a document here. We had 7 days where we had inclement weather of some sort. You can see early outs versus late starts. Ultimately, this is just a summary of what we received. If you guys remember, students are on hours, whereas teachers are on contracted days. So the state minimum is 1,080 hours, and teachers are on a 190-day contract. Teachers missed a total of 3 days, and our students missed a total of 25.6 hours. You guys can see the summary. My recommendation is that we do not make up any student days or hours because we are exceeding the threshold of the state minimum, actually by about 3 days. I am making a recommendation that our staff make up 1 of 3 days. I think there's some things with our strategic plan, some professional development work that we can do at the conclusion of the school year. So that's a summary of what we've missed, and that would be my recommendation, assuming we do not have any more inclement weather this year, and you just never know, it's Iowa.
So moved. I like that.
I'll second it.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
Okay, did everybody see the course description guide? Do you have any commentary there? Or?
Yeah, I just got a review today by Tila. Honestly, the only major changes were some additional courses. So we have some DMAC courses with some art appreciation. We've hired an individual that is able to teach that. Some DMAC agronomy courses, some horticulture courses. So I think our science, we have a meteorology course, social studies, US geography. So I would say overall, we're providing more courses to allow our students to be able to experience a variety of elective courses, which is, I think, a great thing for us to do considering the size of school that we're at.
All right.
I'll move to approve.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
Okay, lots of policy revisions. It's like we got in the mismatch where we got first reading and some rescinded. Did anybody have any concerns or comments about those?
If there's no questions, I'll make a motion to approve first reading of all those.
Second, sorry. State your name.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Merritt.
Yes. Okay, and then this is just our usual review. Looks like of 500 and some 600s.
I didn't update the recommendation. It's first and final for all of those.
Yeah.
First and final for all of these. This is what the recommendation will be if you so choose.
I'll move to approve those as well.
Second.
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Mary.
Yes.
Okay, communications, delegations, and petitions. So we'll go straight to public comment. Yes, Bill. Okay. Okay, first up, Jana Rector. Is that right?
You can pass. This is kind of an outline of what I would like to speak to you about tonight. And Ms. Atwell, I'll give you a copy of my entire notes for Mr. Benson. Also, my name's Jana Rector, and I graduated from Ogden Community Schools several years ago, and I've taught public education for 45 years, a coach for 20. Then I got my administrative license at Drake and specialized in education law. And through teaching law then, law classes for Buena Vista University for 8 years, education ethics and rights and responsibilities of teachers and employers, I was very disappointed at the non-recommendation of Scott Church as the head varsity boys basketball coach. And I'd just like to address 3 concerns that I had with that. It doesn't make me an expert in any of these areas. It just makes me very protective of the Ogden Community School District because it's a fine school district and a great community. And when I see laws that are not followed, that have consequences for everyone, then I'm first to call your attention to it. My first concern was the non-recommendation of Scott Church on the aspect of coaching too many sports, which through coaching for and teaching in 4 different school districts, I never heard of that, but it's okay if that's in your board policy or if it's in your athletic handbook, and it's not. So I asked myself, where did this aspect of coaching too many sports come from? And I think I know, but it doesn't matter what I think or what you think. It's what the law states. It came from some parent complaints. And from what I hear, and I still have a lot of friends here, teaching colleagues, and family here in Ogden. And when you listen to 6 or 8 patrons of the community, but you fail to investigate their complaints by maybe calling in the head coach of the sport that Scott coaches under, head coaches, or when he's the head coach and he has assistant coaches and you don't call them in, or you don't call in the 99.9% of the other population of the community, that's a problem. Because there should be right now, and I hope there is, written comments of the people who complained and what they complained about, and written comments of your investigation, what the rest of the population said, pros about Scott Church and his coaching. When you had a very dependable coach who had superior, excellent, and good recommendations from his supervisors for 5 years. And we all hear things on the TV every night about coaches and teachers that don't do the right thing. And I see some coaches in the audience tonight, and I'm wondering if, I'm sorry that Mr. Vansicle is not here because I know his 2 boys are athletes. And I'm thinking if they decide to coach someday, I'm hoping that maybe things are handled differently, or how he would handle it. As these coaches sitting out here thinking all the right things, all the right reasons, the right people at the right time, and still not get recommended from the system that you get it all the right things for. So it's electing some new school board members. Every single person on that forum said, we must go through the chain of command. Now, that's not a board policy. It doesn't say chain of command. What it says is board members will direct concerned individuals, the complainants, to the appropriate district staff, which would be the lower end. Scott would have been the coach. That would have been the first connection, to address their inquiry or complaint in accordance with board policy. That is in the board policy. And I just want to know if that happened. I know you can't answer me. That's okay. It's a congenial way to take care of problems and try and solve good or keep good staff and good teachers. Code of Ethics number 5 in your board policy. In meeting my responsibility to my school district community, I will represent the entire school district rather than individual electors, patrons, or groups. And I ask if any of you are coaches or any of your sons or daughters, because Scott's 3 adult children are all teachers. Well, one's going to be a teacher. So 3 teachers, they all want to coach. That tells me something about the Ogden Community School District, led by the Ogden Board, did something right in their education, in lots of people's education. My concern number 3 is I'm aware of many, not many, because there's only 5 of you, 6 of you, some of school board members that are talking about school employees outside of board meetings. That's also in the board policy, that is not to be done. As a school board member, I will not discuss the confidential business of the board in my home, on the street, or in my office. The place for such discussion is the board meeting. And I think when you interpret the law or you ignore the law, instead of standing on your integrity, which is always backed by laws, you leave the rooms open for consequences. And breaking laws always have consequences. So another question I have is, what law did Scott break that he should be the only one to suffer the consequences? This could constitute a privacy violation, discriminatory practices, conflict of interest, wrongful termination, or at the least not supporting an employee of the Ogden Community School District. I know Scott signed his contract as an at-will employee, so you can dismiss him at any time for any reason, which doesn't seem fair to me, but that's a law. But I also want you to know, and you're, I'm sure, aware of this, that also at-will employees can still file wrongful termination and claims on the grounds of discrimination or retaliation or other wrongful actions. 2 of the 4 school districts I have taught for were in lawsuits while I was teaching for them. Cost them millions of dollars because they didn't follow the law. And I just don't want to see that here. I don't want to see KCCI-TV up here seeing what's going on. One of the things I did hear Lita Burton say last year in the forum was, I abide by the law, because if you don't abide by the law, it's going to cost the district a lot of money. So those are my concerns. In conclusion, I'd just like to say, I think you've all read the manual. It's a good manual. The superintendent follows the board policy first. He's guided by board policies. Then the law. Those 2 things should combine. And they do. You have an excellent Ogden School Board manual. I don't know why it wasn't followed. That's a question that maybe will come up later, because there's always going to be parent complaints. But that's why the laws are established, to establish standards and procedures for complaints and to stand behind the laws. The Iowa Board of Educational Examiners, the Iowa Association of School Boards make these laws, and they make them to protect the innocent citizen. Great education systems are always in a state of constant change for a purpose. What was the real purpose of not recommending Scott Church for head boys basketball coach? Was it coaching too many sports? I don't know. He's given 30 years to this district. Seemed to me like you would want someone that was trustworthy and cared about kids in the school district. One of my favorite administrators in the school came on the intercom every morning and addressed the school board or the school population, and she'd say, "Thank you for showing up. Thank you for showing up." And then she'd say, "Thank you for showing up. Now let's step up." So thank you for the opportunity to talk with you tonight.
In email every time something changes. And one of the things he's talked about is desired daily experiences for the kids. That's been a humongous driving point for his. And the desired daily experiences, so the real daily experiences of my children rather, are substantially better than they were before because there is less tension at home, less tension within the school. We know what's going on. That communication is definitely increasing. I'm sure Amy's a big part of that because I discussed that with her a year ago. She was all about increasing communication. So I just wanted to tell you guys how much I appreciate that. We know what's going on. Things are just so much more transparent. It was apparent during conferences. We had great conferences with their teachers. A couple of them were here today with the girls' teachers. They knew what they were talking about. They were prepared. Again, communication was great, and it was broad. It was across everything. It wasn't like there was 75%. It was every single teacher knew exactly what kids were doing, knew how to relay that information to us as parents. We knew what they were doing, where they were going for the rest of the year. It was really, really nice. So being that I've kind of cracked on you guys a couple times about communication, I wanted to lift up the fact that the communication has increased so much. I think that's a real positive. And talking with Joshua over the last year, half a dozen times, it's very apparent he wants to make Ogden schools the standard for these small schools in Iowa. And I think that's just really, really impressive that that's who we have for a superintendent, somebody that wants to continue to make the school district better and get these kids to achieve their full potential. Again, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Jared. And Kaylin? That is everybody there. All right, thank you for your comments, everybody. Next, the board calendar. Let's see. I wouldn't mind doing it just because I would think that if you to probably maybe the next year, but then
There's 3 of us fighting over
I
each
know.
year, so
so you'll have to draw some.
or we get 3 of us up there.
Is that okay with y'all or?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. Have a great time.
All right. I'm done. And this stuff doesn't need. ICAP report?
Yeah, so the ICAP report, what that is, it stands for Individualized Career Academic Plan. And it is a Iowa code that requires you to put together a plan on how you are going to basically create a pathway for students to give them career awareness, career exposure, interest profiles, give them exposure to the industry, and try and get them to an appropriate place that they want to be in the future. And that pathway could be into the workforce immediately. It could be into, a 2-year pathway, a 4-year pathway, apprenticeship, military, We don't care. Our goal is to give our kids exposure and access to all of these different things so that they can find their passion and their interest to be a productive member of society. Basically, your ICAP plan, you have to create a district ICAP plan, and it says these are the things that you're going to commit to. And that was submitted last week by Taylor Wellness, Maury, I think Amy had a hand in a little bit, and a number of individuals. So I just wanted to let you guys know. You guys have a day.
Any questions?
Safety update, again, just kind of with that kid. I sent out something to our community and just let them know that part of the usage of the Homeland Security was to get in a visitor badge system. So if you guys can see, what it will do is if an individual scans in, they'll get this badge. You guys will have a copy if you want, but ultimately now we know who is a guest. This will automatically run a background, not a background check, excuse me, if they are in the sex offender list, and or if they have any necessary felons or anything that they should or should not be in our campuses. So that is a nice thing. In addition, then it will start to create records of who's been in our facilities, when were they in their facilities, when did they exit the facilities, etc. So just wanted to give you an update. Jesse's been working extremely hard to get that up and date going for us. With that Homeland Security, in addition, we've been working on, I'd say we're about 50% completion of that $150,000 that we received. A major item with that is the adding of our cameras. So Jesse has been working on that. We're still working on the door positioning switches. And again, a reminder of what those are is if an exterior door is open, they'll send a signal and let us know. So that would be a major item that is yet to be completed. We're still working on the summer's dollar allocations. One of the things that you guys saw with ISG, they talked a lot about doors and making sure that we can lock interior exterior doors easily. Billy actually is in the middle of getting us a bid to find out if we can change the hardware on all of our doors interior to be push button from the inside. So that is something that we potentially could be moving towards this summer based off of where that bid would come. Any other last thing, we're working with the city on some improvements for illumination on our common spaces outside. So we're going to some LED lighting on some of our parking lots and those types of things, which would be also an Homeland Security grant, just to improve some of that overall. Any questions on safety? Then I think you know that if you maybe are not resident, reach out to you regarding House 2278. It is formally through the House um, with House 2278. What it basically says is that if we have an open enrolled student that is within 2 miles of our boundaries and the open enrolled attendance center is closer than their resident, we may be able to pick them up. So as people are reaching out to you, I just wanted you guys to know that I'm keenly aware of it. I've been actually spending some time talking, looking at our policies. I've been reaching out to the Department of Education. We're looking at financial implications of this. And it has to pass. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on something that hasn't passed. But as you guys are getting communication, I would encourage you just to continue to send that information to myself and or to reiterate that we're looking into this and we're going to make sure that we do what is best for kids as well as what's best for our community schools. Any questions regarding that? Somebody from Boone County Economic Development, and I think this is timely also with our ISG report. I'm sure that you guys are aware, but Daisy Brand actually was, I think, actually in a board meeting tonight to get approved by Boone. But they are anticipating 250 to 300 new jobs in Boone County. So actually somebody from Boone Economic Development came to me last week and just wanted to give me a heads up as we're 9 to 10 miles away from this $750 million addition. It's going to bring a lot of jobs. and we want to make sure that I think our quality of our education and our community, our facilities, I think they speak for itself. And just to know that we potentially have a number of jobs that are moving into Boone County, which is a good thing overall for everybody. So I did want to just mention that. Finally, strategic planning. We do have a work session next Tuesday from 5:30 to 7:30. Jeff is our consultant with Teamworks. He will be on site. We are close to completing the work. So it has been a long process. It started on January. Actually, we started in December with a board session. But I think our team has been working extremely hard, and we've done a great job of analyzing. And I think that we're going to come together with a pretty robust plan that is going to be our Northern Star for the district moving forward. And now that we have that plan, I'm excited to be able to work that plan moving forward with a 3-year overall vision. See, that's all I have.
That's for work session.
That would be a work session from 5:30 to 7:30, and it'll be in here next Tuesday. Yep.
Anybody have any questions? All right. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So,
Bergstrom,
Yes.
Taylor,
Yes.
Thompson,
yes.
Merritt. Yes. All right. You don't want any exits? The air is working. That's
It is
what's
working.
it work.
Thank you, guys.